Welcome to the Heme Consults orientation video series. This is number 25. This is number 25. We're asking for help. Asking for help. You're not a lone superhero. In residency, when I would round in my attendings, I always wanted them to know how much I knew. And then as a fellow, what I recognize is that how much you know is actually not as important as how well you think. And so I want to give you 7 ways to reframe how you think about asking for help. The first thing I want you to think about is that, healthcare is a team sport. And it is. You didn't build the hospital. You are not here to clean it at night. There's so many people working together to make healthcare happen. It didn't start when you arrived, doesn't end when you leave. And so it's important to recognize that the delivery of excellent patient care is a shared responsibility. It doesn't fall in your lap. It is a shared responsibility. And it's important for you to know that. And so you don't go forward thinking that the care of this patient depends on only me. It is a shared responsibility. And as a consult service, we are supporting a team in their care of the patients. It is a shared responsibility. So recognize that. The next thing is that recognize that as the hematology consults fellow, you are like the CEO of the team. It's a small team and you don't make a CEO salary, but think of it as you are the CEO, the attending is your board, and the coagulation consult service or the apheresis service or the sickle cell rounding team, they're all part of your team. And no, they don't work for you. You don't pay them a payroll, but they're all part of the team that's tasked with taking care of patients with hematologic disorders. And so it's not up to you to figure out the dosing and the medication monitoring and the transition to outpatient care. You have a whole team that's surrounding you to help you do it. And what you got to do is be someone who leverages the team. So if you're like, I don't even know what these people do, what do they do for me? Go ask them, call the pharmacist and say, how can I better leverage your assistance in managing patients? They will gladly tell you. Sometimes they're looking at you and they're thinking, they could use some help. I can tell, but you look like you don't need help, so they don't offer. And so asking them can help them teach you about how best to leverage their expertise. Okay. Remember that the attending is there for you. Actually, honestly, this whole thing falls on the attending. If things don't go well, it's on the attending. And so they actually are there to support you. And they're willingly there to support you, but even if they're not willing, they're there for you. And so what you really want to do is make use of the attending. It is helpful when you call the attending that you have your own plan that you want to share. So don't call the attending and say, blah, blah, blah happened. And then you're quiet. Because what's helpful, again, is for you to say, well, and based on this, these are my recommendations. What are your thoughts about that? So always engage the attending. Have a plan, not so you have to go do a lot of homework to come up with a plan, but just commit to a plan of action so it doesn't feel like they're spoon feeding you. It just doesn't feel so good when people call in. It's like, I don't want to think about anything. You tell me the answer. It's helpful when the fellow has a plan. So you have a plan. Okay, have a plan when you talk to the attending. One thing I want you to think about is that the ability to store information in your head maybe it was relevant years ago, but it's not as important today. And so what's really important is your ability to synthesize information, your ability to communicate information. But storing knowledge in your head is great when you can, but your memory is faulty. And sometimes you remember things incorrectly. And sometimes the data is changing. The last time you read it, you knew exactly what we were going to do, but maybe the data has changed. Maybe the literature is changing as far as the recommendations. So it's helpful for you to look things up frequently. In essence, when you do that, it stays in your head, but don't make a point of trying to memorize things. It's not a great use of brain space, in my opinion. Okay. The next thing is that let go of judgment and stay curious. Stay curious and ask questions. And ultimately, it's a great tool. If you don't understand something, ask somebody. Don't say, hey, I'm just going to figure this out. And once I figure it out, then I'll know if I need to ask somebody or not. If you're struggling and you don't even have time to do a full literature review, ask someone, call the pharmacist. If you feel safer calling the pharmacist, or call the sickle cell rounding team and say, I don't understand why this patient's on voxelotor. What is voxelotor again? Those are the questions they can answer for you simply. So just think about asking questions, staying curious, and letting go of judgment. Don't judge yourself. Don't judge others. It just helps. It helps you to remove all the negative energy that's associated with judging someone who's probably not going to change because you say they should. And it allows you to focus on your locus of control, what you actually have influence over in your sphere of influence. Okay, so I want to ask you that this week, think about all the ways in which you need help and have a plan of action. Like, where do I get to where I say I need help? Where do I get to where I say I need help? What is the point at which I say, you know what, you've tried looking for this answer, go find help now. But definitely recognize that your whole team is here to support you. And so if you need help, you should ask for help. All right. If you could ask for anything you needed at any time, what kind of experience might you have on the Heme Consults rotation? I'd like to hear about it. I'll see you on the next video.